Welcome back to Post Perspective at SMPTE 2018. I have a great panel with me today from A&E Networks. So directly to my left is Dana Massey, who's Vice President, Content Services and Operations. Welcome, Dana.
Thank you.
And next to her, Claudia Cummings, who's Vice President of Post-Production. And to her, next to her, Jason Rose, Senior Director of Content Distribution Services. We're going to get into what you all do with those interesting titles in just a moment. But first I'd like to know, A&E. It's a bigger network than it would suggest from just A&E, correct?
Yes.
How many networks does A&E comprise?
A&E comprises of 10 networks, 3 major and the rest minor. Big ones are A&E, Lifetime, and History.
Okay. And the lesser ones, would we know them?
Viceland, FYI, History on Espanol, CI, which is Crime and Investigation Network, Lifetime Real Women, Lifetime Movie Network, and Military History Channel.
So probably all of our viewers are A&E fans, whether they know it or not, right?
Hopefully.
Absolutely.
Yes. I like that.
Absolutely.
The omnipresence. So let's talk a little bit about your titles. Let me start off with you, Dana. What does that mean, Vice President of Content Services and Operations?
So I'm based in the Stamford, Connecticut office, and that is where all the assets that A&E, either scripted, unscripted, acquired, all of those assets are brought in file-based, and we are the end-to-end team that processes through acquisitions, post-production, quality check and tech evaluation, and also to distribution, whether it be broadcast, streaming, or to the digital broadband sites and apps, or third-party MVPDs.
And for all the networks?
It's all brands, all networks. Depending on the level of acquisitions, it could be anywhere from 3,000 to 4,000 individual titles per year.
That seems like an absolutely mammoth job, especially because you have so many distribution platforms that you output to.
Yes, and Jason can lead into this a little bit. I would say you have around 300, 350 different distribution endpoints.
Including international, for sure.
Wow. So in the middle, Claudia, tell us a little bit about what it's like being in charge of post-production at A&E.
Well, we create masters for our broadcast and international and nonlinear platforms. So between all of those different distribution endpoints, we're creating somewhere between 10 and 12,000 different masters per year. So anything from broadcast premieres to new content that we're making that might be enhanced, or a compilation best of program gets made in-house in our Stamford facility.
And is versioning totally out of control?
I wouldn't say it's out of control, but we certainly have quite a bit of it.
I'm always interested when I talk to movie studios, for example, and I'm completely gobsmacked at the number of versions they've had to create for a feature film. Give us a sense of what that is like at A&E.
Well, in-house we make an average of 4 to 6 different versions for different distribution endpoints. Once we get our global masters out into the world, they are spawning all kinds of different end versions, and we get some of those back in-house. We're able to use those for follow-on sales, and we're looking to be a little bit more organized in how we deal with those, and looking to IMF as a possible solution to help us solve that problem.
Great. And then Jason, you're the last contact guy before it goes out into the world?
Yeah, content distribution services is basically, we handle the fulfillment of content to our nonlinear distribution platforms. That's SVOD, TVOD, set-top, VOD, OTT, TV Everywhere, etc. We do some international program sales and channel partner fulfillment, handle a handful of video syndication orders. Our supply chain, once we receive a handoff of nonlinear masters from Claudia's team is we'll handle the transcoding, we'll handle the packaging, and the actual distribution of those packages to the endpoints. We're also responsible for aggregating all the metadata and actually enhancing the metadata to make it storefront ready that we use for the metadata transformation necessary to complete our packages to be distributed to the various platforms.
That also sounds like a pretty hefty job.
It's fun, I enjoy it.
Good. So you're here at SMPTE. What are your technical needs now at A&E? What kinds of solutions are you looking for? What kinds of tools?
I think right now we're looking to enhance our file-based workflow. We're looking at things like auto QC, where AI and machine learning can contribute to some of the lift we have in S&P compliance. We're, as Jason alluded to, metadata is a big part of our world. We actually don't have a enterprise solution for how we manage and capture metadata. So we're looking at solutions that will enhance the workflows when possible, where possible, looking where we can automate. Just like everybody else, we have a lot of different workflows and assets coming through the pipeline. We need to free up resources to handle that. So, one way that we're looking to do that is through automation. Right as of, we probably have 56 countries and 23 different languages.
Oh, a lot more.
Yeah. So we've got a big churn of stuff. So where we can automate and use technology for efficiencies, that's something that we really have to get aggressive with.
Do any of you want to add anything to that list? Sounds pretty comprehensive.
That's about it, yeah.
Okay. Jason?
Sure. I mean, there's a lot of places we can go, just under the umbrella in terms of what Danny outlined. One of the things we were talking about in preparation for this discussion has been some of the AI interests that we have at the summit. One of the things we've been successful with in the past is creating our SVOD apps. History Vault and Lifetime Movie Club. I'm not sure if you've been familiar.
Tell me a little bit about how I know there was a change where a lot of the older material where it was no longer available on the network.
Well, if you're familiar with A&E's programming, the History Channel years ago used to be a lot of older World War centric type of programming, and they since rebranded the History Network, where they went to more of a reality programming, and we launched an H2, which is where a lot of that older programming went. H2 was since replaced with Viceland on the linear network, but we have this deep inventory of content that's no longer on the air, right? So A&E was successful in launching a History Vault product. We basically took that inventory and made it available in a SVOD app, and we've been very successful with that product, as long as another product called Lifetime Movie Club.
So in other words, you created a video on demand app for this older material.
Yep.
And
subscription based. Yep.
And it was subscription based, and this was the idea was to monetize material that would otherwise just be sitting there.
Correct. And then the opportunity with AI is that we have pretty extensive library of content, and with the success of this model, if we could use some of the discovery technology through AI to basically scan our inventory and see if maybe there's a critical mass of similar content that may be valuable in terms of launching yet another product and replicating that success.
And the AI, in other words, would connect to the metadata that's there, or how would you use AI to scan?
Well, in that particular application, it'd just be a matter of seeing if there's enough critical mass in a certain genre, for example, that makes sense for us to consider monetizing.
Right, because otherwise it would be lots and lots of people doing it manually.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
Which is hard to imagine, which would probably never get done, right?
No, and that's one of our goals is to monetize our assets.
Absolutely.
So this is one of those tools that we could look at to help that monetization process.
Well, you brought up artificial intelligence, machine learning. I'm sure you see other possibilities for using AI-empowered kinds of tools at A&E. What else are you looking at?
We spend a lot of time on compliance review. So my producers and the technicians on our quality control team are constantly on the lookout for content that might need some modification before it goes on air or out for distribution. So this would be a potential tool for us to help us with that search and help us pinpoint where we should go in and remediate.
All right, so that's another point in the workflow. Are there the workflow is so long, what other points in the workflow might it?
So one of the challenges we've had historically, with A&E is after we distribute our content to third-party platforms, we throw it over the fence and we don't have very much visibility in terms of what happens with the content once it's received by the third party, right? And we do have, for high priority content, tentpole programming, we may go to those platforms and actually check the storefront, whether it's the set-top box or whether it's the website, to see if our content's there, if it's there on time and that sort of thing. But in order to do that broadly, we require an army of people. So one of the other things that's of interest to us is leveraging machine learning and bot automation to be able to crawl those platforms and be able to collect that feedback so that we can take action on it in whatever form that might be.
And do you feel that the technology is at a place where this is something that's doable in the near future?
I believe for that particular use case, yeah, I think we're getting pretty close.
Right, because I know so many people talk about various AI and machine learning solutions, and some of them are ready for prime time and some are not. So obviously, I know you're going to be very careful where you put your resources. How have those discussions gone?
I think they're going really well. I think it's knowing that this workflow is probably 4 years. When they went from a tape-based to a file-based,
Right.
the transition was very successful. And there's a nimbleness or an agility that the team has to actually look at leveraging these types of technologies to help us take the next leap. We can't monetize if we're not able to process quicker. And this is where this is a real reality for us to be able to start looking at all the different various pipelines and leverage the right tool in the right place in that pipeline to get that automation in place.
Well, because it's a huge ROI, right? You're unlocking revenue by doing that.
Yes.
So that's an
Yes.
easy argument to make to
It's
the.
a very easy argument.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
just it's implementing in the right place in the workflow.
Right. And do you foresee any kinds of implementations in AI in the future that may not unlock revenue but could also be important?
No, not that we've
Not
actually
yet.
been. Not yet. Yeah,
Not
this
yet.
is new. Where this is.
Right. My guess is I think I always think products get invented twice, or in technologies probably more times. As you use them, you'll probably discover things that nobody else has brought up that you might be able to use it for. So we could have our conversation again in a few years and see what you've done with it. So I understand also you're involved in cloud and IMF are two other technical issues that are on your plates at A&E, correct?
We have an interest in the cloud, obviously, from a storage standpoint, and that's where IMF becomes a big factor. And also, we distribute, I think, our demand is somewhere in the neighborhood of 50,000 unique programs annually, and somewhere in the neighborhood of 250,000 unique packages that we would need to distribute.
Wow.
Obviously, on-prem, we're limited, but the cloud offers opportunities for us in terms of burstability to be able to, meet the growing demand, especially with the, new OTT platforms is a big driver of some of our demand for fulfillment nowadays.
It seems like you have a tremendous amount of content that you're streaming through the cloud.
Yeah.
And are you renting cloud space?
Yeah, we're actually just launching our presence in the cloud. So currently our assets are sitting on-prem.
Okay.
We've got them in
All right.
different types of storage, and that's the challenge. It's isolated, and when you're going to leverage and monetize, you really need it in a place where you can pick it up, package it, and push it, and get the content in front of the consumer's eyes. Right now, it takes us too much time from the creation of the master that can be distributed to the actual getting it out in front of the consumers. It's too much of a time lag.
Yeah, and consumers hate that latency, don't they?
Yes.
Yeah.
And the goal, again, with the cloud, with the primary goal for us in the short term being the elasticity and burstability in order for us to be able to meet our demand. Automation coming full circle, is a big part of the equation as well. We're doing a lot on-prem in terms of being able to automate our supply chain. We'd like to see that. Obviously, any move we make to the cloud, automation is going to, be a key for that. And the vision that we have, although we would have to take incremental steps toward realizing that vision, is be able to automate this supply chain from end to end, right? And really move to an exception-based model. We're just monitoring for errors. Maybe there's certain tasks that they're going to raise where we have some type of editorial stops if need be. But being in a position that we wanted to, from acquisitions to fulfillment, that it can flow and automate throughout the supply chain, and all the activity that we're doing in terms of interacting with the flow, we're primarily exception-based.
Right. And Claudia, does that impact your role in post-production?
Well, we're really looking at how we do everything. So we want to be able to get to a model where we can get producers' hands on the content sooner. So we have our content coming in from outside production companies, and they're doing the creative part of the process, and we're really handling the technical part.
Right.
And the sooner we can get our hands on that and work on versioning, work on mastering, the sooner that we can hand it off to Jason's team and get it out into the world and get it out on broadcast.
Right. Sounds good. And
Also
were you going to
gives
add
the-
something, Dana?
Well,
Yes?
it gives the creative teams an opportunity to create something new. We're not in a position to really try new ideas and new thoughts because we have our business as usual is all encompassing with all of the resources that we have. So the automation and the streamlining is going to allow us to try new things as an enterprise.
So this is a pretty crucial tool to getting there, it sounds like.
It's absolutely a crucial tool to get there.
And do you see it eventually as being a hybrid on-prem cloud solution? Yeah, okay.
That's actually what we're looking at.
Okay, so I understand IMF is another thing that you're looking into or perhaps already embraced.
We're looking into possibilities for adopting it. So
All right, well,
it really is, we make so many different versions. So we'll premiere a show and then we'll make a daytime version. We might make an enhanced encore that's got different content or additional graphics to really draw viewers back in to see the show a second time in a new way.
Right.
So the best way to do that and still be able to bring back all our global content and marry them together into one package would be, at this point, IMF, rather than having dozens of different assets sitting all over the globe.
So are you still in the research phase with that?
We are.
Well, I know that you're all SMPTE members, and I know that you've all been to the SMPTE conference, annual conference before. In the past, have you found tool sets here? What's been the benefit of coming to the SMPTE annual conference?
I think overall, just the learning opportunity. You know, it's a great conference to network with peers, network with technologists, you know, access to folks that you normally wouldn't have access to really learn from. I think that for me is the most important thing, and being able to share that information and continue that knowledge share.
Anything to add?
I think knowing that there are people pushing the envelope in the ways that we're considering is very helpful, and also getting the perspective that there are other people struggling with the same issues that we are, and hearing about what they're considering to get them through that.
You know, and you know, I'd just add to that. You know, also just taking stock of where things actually are. You know, you may have a sense of, hey, this would be interesting for us, and you do a little bit of research of it, but being able to come in and kind of take stock, okay, of where things realistically are, and putting it in perspective to Claudia's point, has been valuable.
Excellent. Well, I know that you haven't really had a chance to be on the floor much, so I won't ask you if you found the solution to all your problems on the floor, but perhaps we can check in later. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.